Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
Tonight we'll be reviewing From Hell, a movie that was released in 2001, I think.
Yeah, and it's an English period horror thriller film.
Yes.
Now, for those of you who love horror movies, the current horror movie genre is usually full of acts because they're slasher films. This is a horror
Classic.
thriller. No,
Well, horror classic.
no, get the word classic out of your
Okay,
head.
not
It's
horror
a period
classic.
horror thriller.
Horror drama.
Horror thriller.
Yeah.
Like suspense thriller. You know, it's not meant to be an action thing of people running around chopping heads off with machetes and axes.
Well-
So some people who want that sort of stuff may not like this style of movie. As
Yeah.
when I get into the reviews later on, some of that will sort of come out. But some of the reception by some of the critics was quite favourable. So interesting, hey folks.
Yeah, and as well, guys, From Hell is the story of the unexplained story about Jack the Ripper.
It's a version, and I do like this version because
Me too.
they've actually brought in real people.
True.
The inspector who's actually run the investigation was the real inspector who was stationed in that area in London at the time of the murders and stuff. So it actually brought realism into it. So the best part about this, even though it's a fictional story, you know, when it's written in a book and then made in a movie, it was based on a real occurrence and real people, which gives it a bit more substance.
Yeah. So this is based off a book, a fictional adaptation of it, where
well, I'll go to that in a minute.
where the story takes place with the Jack the Ripper were killing women, and as you may have heard the story, it has something to do with the royal household of maybe Queen Elizabeth's family, Queen Victoria's family.
In this version of it, it's hinting at there's a problem and a link with the royal family.
Yeah, possibly that which could destroy the monarchy as we speak.
Okay, so that's been ongoing. I wouldn't use the word conspiracy theory because the point is no one knows, but there's so many hallmarks saying this wasn't just random murders.
Yeah.
It was done for a reason, and you think,
yeah, I mean, but then again, he was killing prostitutes and not ordinary women, like if they were just a fisherman wife or...
he was finding these couple of prostitutes who were friends of each other. There might have been some other murders as well, but these were understood out because of the way they were killed.
Yeah, see, most of these women, I read somewhere, I took the liberty of doing some research, and they said that originally in the the real history is that the victims were never connected. But in this movie, they are connected for a particular reason. Yeah. So, anyway.
But he could have been walking, I mean, they were working in the same area. That's the whole point. Yeah.
There's also another link to the story, a particular link, but it has a link to the detective in the story. It deals with a Cleveland scandal that's located in this story, where it deals with the Prince Albert of Victor, who was the grandson to Queen Victoria, who supposedly was conducting numerous affairs. Supposedly,
he was a naughty boy going to male brothels and stuff, and it possibly in reality, but in this one he was going to females. Yeah,
meaning making out he's a artist, and he got them to pose for him, and then he married one of them, secretly.
But actually, his name, he referred to him as Albert Sickert. There was an artist around that time by the name of something or other Sickert, and they took his name for the movie or the book. Interesting, hey? They stole his name. He was an artist in the area.
Ooh.
Whoops. But he said he believed he actually knew who the Ripper was and that sort of stuff, so they threw him in. Yeah, He's been immortalised. Anyway, I'll go through my usuals. Okay, here we go, guys. Produced by Don Murphy and Jane Hampshire. Directed by the Hughes brothers. I haven't got their first name, but they're twins, and they do some interesting films. Screenplay was by Terry Hayes and Rafael Iglesias. I believe that's the right pronunciation. Based on From Hell by Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell. And as Sarah was saying before, it's been loosely based on this novel and covers the Jack the Ripper murders in London way back when, in the 1800s, was it? Yeah, 1888, thereabouts.
Yeah, right about that.
So without further... my other bit. Budget, $35 million. Box office, 75. And it went pretty good in the first couple of weeks, so everybody went to see it who was going to go see it, and then obviously other films came on at the cinema, and yeah. But however, it made money, which is good. Well, we'll talk about the other stuff later. Actually, I'll talk about some of the cast here, but not too many of them.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp, mentioned as Inspector Frederick Abilene, the sympathetic police officer who investigates the Ripper murders. He was a bit of a drug addict and stuff, and he
constantly throughout this movie he goes to opium dens, gets off absinthe, the
Green Dragon.
The Green Dragon.
What I was going to say, he probably got it after the death of his wife, who died during childbirth about 2 years prior to this. Okay, Heather Graham plays Mary Kelly, a young prostitute, very attractive one. I would have paid for that one. Now, Ian Holm plays Sir William Gull, a retired surgeon and a physician ordinary to Queen Victoria.
Hint, hint.
But hints a link to the royal family. Okay, I won't say anything more. I won't go too much more. Robbie Coltrane plays Sergeant George Godley, whatever. And we know him as Hagrid out of Harry Potter and numerous other things.
Well, he's English, and it's always good to...
There were a few English people in this, yes.
Apart from Johnny Depp, who's American, I think, or...
Okay. Ian Richardson plays Sir Charles Warren, a stiff bureaucrat and Abilene superior, like a police chief type guy. Jason Fleming plays a role in it. Isn't that Ian Fleming's little boy? Yeah. The writer, he plays a coach driver who works for Jack the Ripper.
Oh, another interesting thing about Johnny Depp, I should mention, he was originally going to turn down this role, but because he previously he was previously in another film called Sleepy Hollow, and he was worried that
he typecast in that role, like that sort of period sort of stuff. Maybe? Yeah.
But luckily enough, he decided he probably had to change heart.
He does it quite well. He speaks quite well. He does the English accent stuff and the.
I also heard that Sir Sean Connery was going to be offered the role as the detective.
Yeah, we'll go into the casting later on.
I'm just saying.
And other people were offered.
Oh yeah, and Brad Pitt was offered
I know
it too.
That. You're taking stuff I'm going to talk about later.
Okay, go on.
You were going on. That's the whole problem. Why don't you tell the story now?
Okay. So, anyway, the story begins in ye old London and all that stuff.
About 1988. 1888.
Rationing drink, governor, yada, yada, yada.
What?
So, nothing.
1888.
Yes. And it's, and one thing I like about this movie is the color concept they use in this one. They use a lot of, for some scenes, they use a lot of reds and for the sky.
Yeah, red filters. That doom or
red blood.
Yeah, that's
really good. And a lot of dark scenes too to mimic the dark, depressing.
I'm a great fan of dark filming, using shadows and low light to create atmosphere to everything, bright light or something. I've seen some movies go to the opposite degree. It's either bright light or you go outside and it's so dark you can't see anything. I'd really like to see something occasionally, guys.
Yeah. Two of the late prostitutes got killed the same night. And our detective, he starts investigating them and he notices something weird about it. He notices that each girl has some grapes on her person.
Well, yeah, that little stem that the grapes come on. Yeah,
see, it could. I mean, the chief guy, policeman in charge, keeps saying it's a butcher. okay, maybe not, a butcher or either a
Murder,
stuff.
widow,
But he doesn't think detective doesn't think so, and he links to the fact this policeman is linked to a special group called the Freemasons crowd.
His boss is a Mason.
Yeah, and
as are some of the other people who show up in the movie later on.
Yeah, they continue to flaunt dear old Frederick wherever he turns, even though it's not important. But he continues.
Well, it is, because he's trying to do his job, and in reality, that guy, Frederick Abilene, the real guy, through this period, after this happened, a few other things, he just quit the police force and got another job working for Pinkerton Security. Because he got sick of the police force, because I was full of so many bureaucrats, and you can't do this, leave that alone, cover that up, and he said he got sick of it.
Yeah, anyway, so we then meet some of the prostitutes who are being badly mistreated by some horrible guys in the lower East End who wanted them to give them £1.
Protection money.
Yeah, protection money. Sort of like a pimp or something.
Well, I don't know if they're actually pimping for them, but with protection, if you don't pay us some money, we'll scar you so you can't work.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. Really nasty low life,
Yeah, and they want £1 from each of them per,
so they need £4.
Even
and by today's standard, that's probably several $1,000s or something rather.
Yeah, quite.
And that's a lot of money when you're not getting much money,
And considering that this is the lowest type of job-related stuff to think about.
Well, selling your body, But anyway, let's move along.
And one of the ladies is married and has a baby.
To this artist guy, Albert Sickert.
And she's offered to ask her husband if he could pay...
They're £4. To help her friends out. And he's supposed to be rich.
Yeah. And while she is him and interlocked, I was going to say.
They were in bed doing it, going for it.
Then a group of men come into the room and break up their little love-dovey moment. And Albert is thrust into a very nice, wealthy carriage.
And spirited away.
And while his wife is thrust into a black carriage that looks like, a run-down carriage.
Well, and she's taken to a workhouse and lobotomized.
Yeah, removed half her lobe.
They destroyed her frontal lobe, so she had no memory. It was a half-wit,
Yeah, they did interrogate her before that, asking her who knows.
But she had a baby, but at this point, the baby wasn't there. It was with somebody. They'd given it to
Mary Kelly,
who then gave the baby to somebody else to look after, so the baby would be safe.
She gave it to, I guess, the orphanage for...
a friend of hers.
Her friend of her friend's parents, and I don't know what happens then. But
later on she gets a kid in the movie and goes somewhere. But at the moment, the baby's safe.
Yeah.
No worries, man.
Frederick interrogates the women, and the women are thinking about...
Well, he doesn't interrogate them. He asks questions.
He talks to them, and each one of them thinks that maybe we should go to the police and tell them about what we've seen. They will pay them probably a good dosh of money, and hopefully get the horrible men off their backs.
Yeah.
And they think that it's these horrible men that might be responsible, but it's not.
They're street gangs, but the killings were too methodical and ritualistic and everything else.
Yeah, somehow some of the women's organs are torn out.
I believe it's things like the womb or the ovaries or something are removed from the corpse after it's had its neck being slashed or something or other. Yeah.
Anyway.
So whilst laying there, a quick wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, for a very sharp knife, a surgeon-type knife, and they take out the guts and put them aside next to the body and take out these couple of organs. I do not know why. Yeah. But that's what Jack did.
Anyway, so Frederick decides not to consult the coroner because he's lousy at his job.
He's not very good at his job.
He
gets sick of the sight of blood and stuff.
The guy who's been doing it for who knows how many years would know exactly that the bodies are going to be disgusting, but should have gotten used to it by now.
Yeah, but there's a difference between having a dead body with a bullet hole in the head or something or other, or a stab mark, and having someone's abdomen cut open and all the guts spilling all over the place.
Ah, true.
It's a bit different.
So he consults some leading doctors because he knows that this is done by a man who knows his anatomy.
Yeah, so it could well be a butcher or a doctor.
So he consults some doctors, but they all laugh and thought, he's senile, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, but one person believes him.
Yeah, so he talks to him and tells him about what kind of weapons we're looking at.
Yeah.
Turns out it's not, it's a surgical knife.
Very long one, which is good for doing amputations. That's sharp. It's got a little serrated edge in one part of it, and it's good for doing quick amputations, quick cut opens, and whatever. Yeah, it was. You call it a Lister knife. A Lister knife, I think. Yeah, I can't remember now.
Yeah, another woman gets killed later on, and then Mary gets pulled in by Frederick to talk to her some more, and he takes her to an art gallery where we see it's the famous art gallery pieces.
Had a picture of the Queen there, and I went down to the next picture and it had
Prince Albert of
She
Victor.
looks at it, and that's the guy that her friend was married to.
Yeah, there was a brief flashback where we flash to a brief wedding where she's marrying to Albert, and we see them all witnessed there, and then we figured out that Albert is a prince.
Yeah.
And this is where...
And next in line to the throne once the Queen dies, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, according to...
or very close to it
according to a scene between the Queen and her physician, or the doctor, somehow Albert developed some syphilis. Although in the real records in real life, he died of influenza.
Yeah,
but there's no clues on whether he had syphilis.
He may have had syphilis.
He may not.
A sexually transmitted disease. If he's hitting the whorehouses and brothels and prostitutes, there's a good chance he picked it up. But the influenza could have killed him as well. Yeah.
Just might.
Well, so two things, but one killed him. Yeah.
So another girl gets killed, and I think and eventually, dear old Frederick suggested to Mary to take her friends and try to stay off the streets and all that. And she doesn't have any money because there's no way they're going to be able to stay in a house without cash.
So he slips a few bucks.
Yeah, and he promises that they'll get it once this is over. They'll get out of there and take little baby Alice with them. That's the name of the baby, I should mention.
Alice in Wonderland. No.
Well, I think she's named after her mother. I think.
I don't know. Her mother wasn't Alice.
I know, but she had an A in her name.
Annie, wasn't it?
Yeah, Annie.
Annie, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Anyway, they have a brief moment before it gets interrupted by a constable.
Move right along. Oops, sorry,
or deputy, whatever they call it.
A constable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's done in England, not America. It didn't have deputies over in England.
Yeah, the next death, the killer, Jack the Ripper, left a message. It written in written in chalk. What did it say again, Mike? I think
some blah 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 blah.
Something about
the Jews, but it's spelled Juwes.
Don't be confused by Jew.
No, the point. Sure.
Okay.
You always talk over me.
Calm down.
I'm trying to say something. You just dominate the conversation.
Shut up.
No. And they're trying to make out that referring to the Jewish butchers and people living in the area. But Juwes refers to, I believe, the three Jubals. Jubal something or other. Yeah, it's three guys.
Yeah.
Were they the three Mason guys?
Yeah, probably the first Mason guys, supposedly.
So the Jews were the Jubal and Jew something else and Jew something else.
Yeah,
so,
somehow... dear old Jack the Ripper is
he's hinting that the Freemasons had something to do with it. Yeah.
Meaning, Frederick goes to a library and looks up the history of the Freemasons, and we find out all this information hinting that they're involved. And as you guys know, the Freemasons are the...
we don't have to say it. Everyone knows who the Freemasons. Will you move on?
Well, I'm just telling you.
The world around the world knows who the Masons are.
Well, some people may not.
They do.
May not. As you guys may or may not know, the Freemasons are a secret order of society, maybe made up of wealthy men and a few, unknowns out there, and they're a secret order, and if anyone found out about them, who knows what the
you
members
really don't know what you're
would do.
talking about, okay? They're not a secret society.
But
It's not a secret
somehow,
society. Okay.
their order is exposing the fact they may be involved.
But the point is, the surgeon who works for the Queen is a Mason.
Yes.
Abilene's boss is a Mason, and some other people there involved above him getting in his way are all Masons.
Yeah,
and there's been hinting at a conspiracy trying to hide the truth behind the killings.
Yeah, and when they know who is doing it. So once he finds out it's a surgeon that's the doctor that he's he associates with.
Yeah, the one he's been getting advice from is actually the killer.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Anyway, he eventually gets up. He kind of gets attacked by these other Mason guys. They know what their colleague is up to, and they try to silence dear Frederick.
And the idea is they're going to try to take him away and make him disappear and lobotomize him or whatever. But he escapes, and he kills the guys when he's escaping.
Yeah, Mary, meanwhile, gets money from a local bar which Frederick left to the owner in an envelope. And she's sharing this little accommodation with some of her friends that were all killed, except for a new girl that doesn't have anything to do with this.
Yeah, but she does in the end.
Yeah. Anyway, her friend, that girl, does eventually sell some, buys some food with that money.
A little bit of it.
Not too much of it.
She took a little bit, yeah. A couple of pounds, or 10 shillings or something. He went and bought some food because he was starving. So yeah.
And the next thing we see, the coachman, he's been keeping tabs on these women inside this room, but luckily enough, Mary eventually slips away, unnoticed.
Yeah.
And soon enough, the doctor arrives. He picks the lock because there was a bit of a broken window, during a bit of a scuffle. And he enters and he kills the girl
he sees laying on the bed, not realising it wasn't the lady he was looking for.
Yeah, but he didn't do that.
But I'm just wondering if that was going to be the last killing. Is that the reason why the killings also stopped? Because they think they got Mary Kelly?
That's a good question. So anyway, he then puts the heart that he tore from her chest and put it into a kettle, and it starts beating.
The fire.
And he's like thinking he's doing a lecture in a classroom, and
he's hallucinating now.
Losing his mind. But then again, he's already lost his mind. Anyway, eventually Hedrick arrives, and just so you guys know, unlike the other deaths, this one is a total mess.
Yeah, he went berserk. Yeah.
See, it's not like a matter of cutting open the stomach and taking out the intestines. It's like this guy. This is a total a horrible mess.
Yeah, like a mincer almost. Yeah. Okay, move along.
Anyway, he confronts his boss, telling him he knows all about the Freemasons and how they're responsible for what they did. And we even see the signet ring on his...
Yeah, that little...
the special ring that looks like a...
It's a tool, I don't know what it's called. It looks like a protractor or something or other. It's a tool they use in...
Yeah. Anyway...
Scribing or something, yeah.
So he says he was originally taken off the case, but he was told, guess what, you're back on the case, but we're going to be watching you very closely.
Yeah, and if you're a good boy, you get a promotion as well.
Yeah. So while
sweeten on the pot a bit. Yeah.
While they're examining the body, Frederick notices that the victim has brown hair when Mary has red hair.
Beautiful red hair.
And she eventually did leave a note at the
$10
tavern,
or whatever, yeah.
And there she says that she couldn't wait any longer, so she took Alice and they headed back to
her home or something?
her home in Ireland.
And she left the address and how to contact her or find her.
Of course, there's a big problem there because he's being shadowed
by the Masons, so he decided to destroy the letter.
Yeah,
and not to try find her.
Yeah, because I don't know what could happen. Because now that they found who's the responsible, or supposedly in this movie, and now he's given a lobotomy, and now he's living his days out in the surgeon, inside the institute.
The surgeon who was doing all the killing has now been lobotomized, and the killing stops. And I think they they believe that they actually got all the people involved they wanted to get, and that's why it stopped.
Yeah.
They didn't say it, but that's what's implied.
Anyway, Frederick tells his assistant, the guy who's often talking to him, the other detective, tells him, "Go ahead, why don't you go to see her, Frederick?" But Frederick says that while he may be still being shadowed, unknown by by themselves, but they might still be watching him unattended.
And he doesn't want to put the baby or Mary in danger, which is nice.
Yeah, because considering that now that the Jack the Ripper's out of the way, what makes him think that another doctor or another associates might come take Mary and have her lobotomized and placed in an institute in order to get the truth under wraps?
Exactly right.
Or who knows what would happen to the baby after that? Would they place it in an orphanage? Would they
probably wouldn't kill the baby because the baby wouldn't know anything, so I'd like them to put in a workhouse and let it grow up there like a little bit Oliver Twist or something or other.
Or something.
Of no history, yeah.
Anyway, so he burns the letter and decides not to visit her. And then we flash to him at an opium house where he finds a final glimmer of the future. He glimmers through the future hereafter.
He had second sight type stuff supposedly. Yeah, where he could see things. But when he hits his old opium and stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, he sees Mary with Alice that's probably about 9 or 8 years of age.
A future glimpse of them.
And sees that Mary's now adopted her and Alice is calling her mum.
Yeah,
and
lovely.
Then we find out that this is the last vision he's going to have because he died. I mean,
he's made what's he called? The Detective Godly, Robbie Coltrane comes there to wake him up and say, "Come along," you realise he's actually passed away.
Yeah.
And he puts 2 pennies on his eyes. And he says, "Good night, sweet prince."
My flights of
because
angels.
He really admired him, I think, as male bonding goes, if good friends. I think he loved the guy as a good friend, and he was really sad that he went because he looked like he was going to cry.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of affection for Frederick. But anyway, irrespective. Fade to black, there we go.
One thing that does bother me, Mike, what if the people who were trying to kill the prostitutes, what if one of the prostitutes did give birth but somehow gave her baby away, into an orphanage or something?
Well, that's the whole point.
That's an interesting thought.
But they weren't worried about that. They're worried about the one that got married to Prince Albert. And that's it. And then that's another point too. So they got married in a Catholic church, so that should be on public record.
Yeah, which.
And they didn't want anyone to find out about it. So when they went to the church and had the records destroyed, we don't know. It didn't show up in the movie. Now let's go along on production stuff. This is really good here. Interesting stuff. Now, the film took several years to reach production. So the idea was in pre-production mode for a couple of years. And then they finally decided to make the movie. So they had the idea, kicked around, a lot of script writing, who's interested in financing it, yada yada, blah blah blah.
So
blah,
it was sitting on a desk for
they're probably finalising the script and find out who's going to finance it and whether it's going to be good, if it's worthwhile, can we make money on it, blah blah. And they finally decided to go ahead with it. Now the Hughes brothers originally wanted Daniel Day-Lewis to play Frederick Abilene. In an interview in 1997, Alan Moore, who's Alan Moore? No, whatever, said that Sean Connery had been cast in the role. When Connery dropped out, the Hughes brothers met with Brad Pitt and Jude Law.
Yeah, that's another one I forgot.
And before they finally decided on Johnny Depp, because he'd been in Sleepy Hollow and had the right, I suppose, he had that period down. In that because of the same sort of period, and he spoke well. He passed as English. Anyway, now photography began on June 2000 in and around Prague in the Czech Republic. Now, cool. I've always liked this because they always go to Prague to do Old England. Because there's sections of Prague which haven't been developed, and it looks remarkably like the way Old England would have looked. There's not much of Old England left in London and stuff.
No,
it's all been bulldozed and
really
rebuilt.
rebuilt over and over.
Yeah, so they do that, and they did a lot of work in Baron Barrendov Studios over there, and then they came back to England and did some other stuff. The Barrendov Studios, a massive backlot set recreating the 19th century Whitechapel districts. That would have been a huge set.
Yeah, well, that was where I think that was probably where the Jack the Ripper's murders would take place. I think
Whitechapel, yeah,
Whitechapel.
And then next, I think Sherlock Holmes did something. There wasn't it Whitechapel something or other.
The Whitechapel vampire one.
Yeah, and that was a vampire one. That the guy there trying to think out something like a vampire, Dracula type, whatever, in the same sort of area. And it's really, it takes you back when you look at these old streets, cobblestones and everything. It takes you back to another time. These
it makes me think
directors
of
are doing a great job.
Yeah, it makes me think of Sherlock Holmes and Edgar Allan Poe, all those old, old-fashioned Victorian stuff. That's really interesting.
See, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was done in Prague, and that was the same period.
True.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, and additional exteriors were filmed in the United Kingdom, including Crankington Haven, Boscastle in Cornwall, Golding's Estate in Herefordshire. Yeah, there you go. Nigel Hawthorne, here you go. Nigel was originally cast to play the naughty guy, Sir William Goal, but in July 2000 it was announced that Mr. Hawthorne had withdrawn because he had terminal cancer.
Oh, well, man.
And he died not long after the movie was actually released. So
Shame.
he was replaced by Ian Holm. Ian Holm, I like Ian. He makes a very good Hobbit as well. And
another thing I should mention, guys. According to John Douglas, the creator of the criminal profile to this thing, the Ripper murders were the work of a disorganized paranoid personality, not a calculated one shown in this movie. I think that's what he's referring to. I think I understand.
What did he actually say?
He says that this was the murders were done by a disorganized paranoid personality.
And how would he know?
Because he's a criminal profiler.
Yeah, well, I say, but everything I've read about it, the females were killed and their bellies were ripped open and their organs were taken out.
Yeah, and Mary Kelly's one was like a horrible
that was a weird
mess.
one. Yeah, that was a weird one.
Like indicating, if that was the last one, which indicates, why was it that one different from the others?
Well, we went to a frenzy maybe in the end. I got the last one. Yay. End of term.
Yeah,
whatever.
Another thing I should mention, guys, I saw a forensic photo of the dead remains of supposedly the prostitute Mary Kelly, and it was really graphic.
Really gruesome,
even though it was in black and white, and I wasn't really taken aback by the grossness.
Anyway, I'm not going to go too much about different reception, but different reviewers had different takes on it, and I think when they look at a horror movie, when they review these things, they're always expecting an action horror. Not every horror movie has to be an action horror. Get it through your thick heads, guys. This is a thriller horror. Like, ever heard of a drama? Yeah, it's the opposite of having an action. It's a bit more slower, but it's a thinking man's horror movie. It's got suspense, mystery, thriller. Hello, get the genre now.
Yeah, the other genres that make me think of this movie, aside from the Sherlock Holmes one you mentioned, it also makes me think of the Bram Stoker's Dracula I think Dorian Gray, where he went on a very weird went on a weird lifestyle.
I was talking about the reviews.
I know. Okay, go back to the reviews.
I won't go who said what here, but one of the things said, visually impressive, but this latest Ripper tale is dull and far from scary.
Man, you have no imagination.
No, the point is, it's not supposed to be a slasher movie. It's supposed to be a suspense thriller horror drama type thing. So if you want Freddy Krueger, you're watching the wrong movie. Yeah. Another one here says, I said, okay, 2 hours of gory murders, non sequitur whatever scenes, whatever that means, and an undeveloped romance. It wasn't a freaking love story.
Grief.
Get a grip. Here you go. I will say this, the New York Post called it a gripping and stylish thriller.
Good.
A thriller with horrific themes, okay? Now, here's one. I don't normally like this guy, and he's passed away now, and I don't like saying anything rude about him. Roger Ebert awarded the film 2 thumbs up. That means he gave it a top rating.
Hooray.
So he's on the same page as me for a change.
That's a relief.
He thinks it's brilliant, okay? Here's one. Another guy here said, colourful and entertaining, an impressive showing for the Hughes brothers. So, yeah, some guys have got, you do not get a lot of action and those jump scares in a horror film, which is a suspense thriller. You only get them in the action horror movies, okay? So, yeah, so most of them got it right, okay? So, moving right along here, I will say a couple of things here. It's available through Amazon, rentable only, I believe, on Prime. But there's plenty available new and used on eBay, so it must be in some other places you can get it as well. Now, I did talk about people taking stories out of real life and books being written and whatever. This is one of those cases where this Abilene guy, he started off as a clockmaker. And you say, well, a clockmaker, then he quits and becomes a policeman. And because he's so good, he climbs the ranks pretty quickly.
Cool.
Becomes a detective. And then about this time of the Whitechapel murders, there's so much crap going on and suppressing information. Don't do this, don't do that. Stop your inquiries there. We don't really do this, blah, blah. He got the shits and he left. And he joined Pinkerton Security because he's sick of being a policeman because of all the hierarchy bull crap that was going on there, telling him what he can and can't do when he's trying to investigate a crime.
Yeah, could you imagine all the wealthy class guys
who got away with
murder?
Exactly right.
Just think about that, guys.
Yeah.
That
if you're right, and I won't say just Freemasons, that's in the book, but if you've got money and position, you can get away with anything. Oh, I know the chief of police, I'll have a word to him or something or other, not a problem. And so squash the investigation, round up some of the usual suspects. Now, actually, speaking of suspects,
yes,
they interviewed, to this period of time, I can't remember, I've got all the figures here, they interviewed thousands of people, thousands, back in those days, when it wasn't that big, thousands of people in that area. And they got it down to 80 or 100 suspects.
Wow. And
then they fine-tuned down about 4 or 5, and I think Prince Albert was sort of squashed and pushed off the list.
I have a theory, guys. When I was thinking about watching this movie, it got me thinking maybe there was, even though they think it's a doctor, I have a theory that maybe it was more than just one doctor.
Well, we'll discuss it because if you're going to follow the storyline in this, and if this is anything close to the truth, which it may or may not be, if the Queen had an embarrassing grandson who's in line to the throne and whatever, and wanted to get rid of this marriage which shouldn't have happened and whatever, she asked the family doctor guy, who was a surgeon guy, to have a word and do something. Of course, he had connections in the Masons, but he also in the doctoring stuff and high up. He went and did some the killings himself, but he had to provide an alibi for himself, so he might have had somebody else do a couple of murders. Yeah. So that would give him an alibi, saying, well, it can't be me. I was here when that murder happened.
Yeah, see, it would make a little sense having
sense.
That way. If the police inquired after him, saying, "What were you doing
on the night of January 25th?" Well, I was here having tea with the Queen or somebody or other.
Yeah.
Well, can't be in two places at once.
Yeah, and then the other guys would do the murder for him, and then the next time that they did a murder he does the murder for them. They in turn would say, if they were investigated, they would then say we were doing something else that night.
Yeah, so they covered each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. So interesting. Possible. I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know about the Masons.
Again,
obviously.
as I said before,
it's in the book.
As I said before, they probably had to do it exactly the same way. Tearing out the organs, and then of course when they did the Mary Kelly's one, someone really snapped and decided to go on.
That last one might have him, the main guy, but he, I think he was going into a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
And I think really he was asked to do it. And he was deluding himself, saying, I'm doing the work for the Queen and God and everything. And I think the strain got too much, his brain snapped.
Yeah.
And by the time he did the last killing, he just went berserk. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's probably what the criminal profile guy was saying about this final murder.
The last one was just a butcher job.
Yeah, meaning you didn't care whether or not he tear out the lower part to a body.
No, he took the whole lot out. So arms, legs, it was horrible. I saw the photograph too, terrible. But yeah, the last one he went crazy on, and I think his brain went, and he had what's the word? Illusions of grandeur, and he think he was better than everybody else in the Freemasons and stuff. And they put him out of the way by giving him a lobotomy and put him in a nut house.
Well, he does explain why. I think that they thought he was a bigger threat, even if they were protecting him. Even though they were protecting his
because he was working for the Queen doing so, and now he's becoming a disturbing embarrassment.
Yeah, that's why they kind of tore his rights to be a Freemason and threw him and got him lobotomized and then threw him into another asylum.
Yeah, and that's sad. He did what he had to do for the Queen. Following the storyline, fictitious, but if he think he was doing the right thing, and then he's just seeing crazy in the end.
I do think it was more than one doctor.
I think it got to be two. It has to be two because if he was doing the main killings, someone's had to cover for him to do another one to give an alibi. So that sort of stuff.
At least to me, I think more of it would have been 3 people, or at least
two. He had the coach driver, which might have been the same coach driver. How many coach drivers do you want to trust?
True.
So you got one coach driver, which is Jason Fleming. Whatever role he played.
Yeah, whatever.
And he was having a hard time. He couldn't take it either. He was going crazy, and then he just didn't want to do it because it's innocent women being killed for no apparent reason that he wasn't told the reason. I don't think so.
Yeah. Anyway, I do like the colours they use, the black and white.
The feeling's always good in these movies.
It's pretty cool.
Now I don't know the Hughes brothers' other movies. I had a list of mine. I didn't write them down. I haven't seen the other works. However, if this is anything to go by, they make a damn fine film.
I agree. I mean, I did think it was pretty cool, especially the mood.
You capture the atmosphere of old London.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to do that, he had a budget, obviously, but the points are, you got the actors, we carried it off. They felt like the right period. The sets looked good. The scenery, the scenes, props, everything just seemed to blend nicely and good direction. These guys know their stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. Yeah. Incredible, guys. I mean...
So 2 thumbs up for the Hughes brothers. How's that? Yeah, I don't normally do that. But I do like period stuff when it's done well.
Yeah, and despite the fact we still, to this day, no person has worked out who did Jack the Ripper.
Well, I got my suspicions.
And
I reckon this is close.
Yeah.
But I don't know how close it is.
And some of the names of the doctors in this, they're real names and all that, and they were real suspects for the killings.
Yeah. Had a list of real suspects. You go online, you find it, and it's real. They've taken stuff out of life to put into the movie. Yeah. But I still think there could be traces back to the royal family. There might have been a bastard child born and they wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah.
They had to trace it, and obviously during the course of investigations they didn't want the prostitutes, so asking the questions to say what was going on or warn anybody how to kill them.
So do you really think that they would have, if they found the baby, would they really send it to an orphanage?
Well, I think they would have killed the mother or sent the baby to a workhouse to grow up there like Oliver Twist. Yeah. That would have been common back in those days.
It would be.
Yeah.
That's a drag.
Who's going to pay for them otherwise? Nobody had no families. They bung them in there. And if you start paying money for them, then say, we'll trace the money back. Oh, the Queen's paying for it. Why? So yeah, they have to dump it there and say, well, not our problem. So yeah, I think really it has to be. It can't be just a mad killer because it started and stopped.
Yeah, I mean,
In the same, just a general group.
and considering that it, well, when you think about it, we often do track down suspects a little bit more better now. We
don't.
maybe
We
well,
don't.
not really better, but somehow we've gotten better at, instead of just picking out saying conspiracy theories like blame it on the butcher.
No, what we have now, we're probably a little bit more methodical in our ways of doing things. We have computers now. We have better forensics forensic science, all that sort of stuff to help out. But I don't think we're any better for it because there's a lot of unsolved crimes out there.
Yeah, but bear in mind back then they didn't have fingerprint identification back then.
Had nothing. They didn't have CCTV. They didn't have blood. They didn't understand the blood as much. Yeah, like whose blood types. That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Fingerprints, like you said. They didn't have the stuff we have today. But we still can't figure out who did all the crimes today.
Of course, the coroner is different now because he's not going to throw up in front of you.
Well, yeah, coroner. This he was made out to be
a bungler.
A bungler, but hey, he wants to play with their bodies all day. And the coroner in those days probably didn't do much. You get back the body, come in there, have a look, take a few notes. Yeah, got a stab hole in the chest, that killed them. Nothing else. They didn't take them apart to have a look what killed them.
Yeah,
like they do now, post-mortems.
When Frederick, he noticed something when he was examining the body, and the guy says, "Oh, it was just a slash," and didn't even exactly examine whether or not what parts were slashed.
Yeah, and what was missing?
Yeah. It's a very big. There's usually a lot of interesting things about that.
And that's the part of it. If this is anywhere near the truth of the matter, I haven't studied the Ripper cases too much. I've just studied bits and pieces of it.
Me too.
But everything is always passed over that everyone had their abdomen slashed open and their intestines and things and a few organs removed. Every one of the ones. All the ones attributed to the Ripper were done this way. They were trying to do something or to send a message, or I got no idea why.
Did it say how many women were
I don't know.
Killed? Did they say?
Well,
they
mentioned the 5, but I don't know.
There was probably more than that.
No, there were other people killed around that period, but I think there were these 5 were the main ones who were killed in exactly the same way. And that's why we have a serial killer. Mm-hmm. You see, and that's where the problem is. So anyway, irrespective, I'm going to give this. I don't normally do this. I'm going to give it a 10.
I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Because I think that they've met all the criteria of making a good movie.
Yeah.
Remember, it's not an action horror. It is a suspense thriller. They do move slowly. There's less action in them.
Yeah.
If you don't understand that, well, you're sitting listening.
I guess
to me,
people, the reviewers assume that Johnny Depp, who starred in Sleepy Hollow, they would think this is going to be an action horror.
That's a different movie. It's a different genre.
I know it's a different genre, but they didn't probably see it that way. They didn't see that this is not directed by Tim Burton. This was done by these Hugh brothers.
Yeah, but they're doing more of a sinister, darker movie.
I know, but different director, different direction, as I often say.
Exactly right. And I think it really
I think that's where the term
works.
came from originally, direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what my theory is.
Well, that's what a director does. They get the image in their head and they make it.
Exactly.
Anyway, I can't think of anything else. Substance availability, eBay, plenty, new and used.
Be sure, guys. There's more than one Jack. There's more than one Jack the Ripper movie out there.
Yeah, there's Letter to the Ripper or Letter from the Ripper and different things, and that's sort of. But this one here is From Hell, 2001. With Johnny Depp.
Yeah, so guys, don't confuse it with other Jack the Ripper movies.
The other ones are good. I've seen a couple over the years, but to me, this one is
tops them.
Not bad. It's not like when that the Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman. That was done really well. I mean, it's not totally to the book, but it's pretty damn close. I think it's as good as you're going to get.
Whenever I think of this movie, I think of that movie and how dark and and I know that Victorian times was
We're dark and sinister. That's where
dark and sinister.
The books, the writings back in those days, Victorian tales of terror sort of stuff, all those Victorian stories, the ghost stories and vampires and ghoulies, and they came out of that period because that's what they liked, and that's the feeling of that period. They liked to be scared, and everything was in shadow.
Yeah, this would
They
have been.
didn't have electric light. They had gaslight and candlelight, so if things would go bump in the night, what's over in the corner? I can't see what's in the corner. What is it? That sort of stuff.
And this will be a period that dear old Vincent Price would appreciate.
Well, his Roger Corman movies have done that sort of period. The Black Cat and other things. All those other things.
Well, I'm not sure if he would appreciate it. He probably.
Oh, Vincent loved them. I think. I think he revelled in them.
God
bless Vincent Price.
I think that as far as I'm concerned, I heard that Vincent Price's favourite movie he was in was in Songs of Bernadette.
The Song of Bernadette was a religious movie.
Yeah.
That was his most favourite movie. His whole career.
Quite different from the Roger Corman ones, which we all relish in.
Yeah, but I said it's his favourite movie. He didn't say he didn't like the Roger Corman movies. He didn't say many of them. He must have liked something about them. But no, his favourite movie was a religious movie, which is A Song of Bernadette. I can't remember who else. The girl played it. I can't remember her name at the moment.
Me neither.
But yeah, but his favourite movie was just an ordinary drama about a religious. With a religious theme. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's about it for us tonight. So be sure to check it out on Amazon and be sure to remember it's called From Hell. That was made in 2001.
Yeah. But like I said, it's on Amazon Prime. It's a rental only.
Yes.
I can't see any other copies. But eBay has new and used.
And don't bother going on YouTube to find the copy because I can't seem to find one.
You can't find them? Okay. And I wouldn't go on YouTube unless you really, really had to anyway. That's fair. Yeah,
or if you want to
get a good copy.
Or if you wanted to see a brief clip or a trailer for it.
Yeah, have a look there. But it's a good movie. I like it. It's got a good feel to it. See, I like dramas and mysteries and stuff, and this comes into that sort of thing quite nicely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's kill it. Oh, what a thing to say in a horror movie. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening to this latest podcast, everyone. This is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying we'll see you guys for our next podcast, everyone. So, happy hunting.
Be careful out there. The Ripper might get you.
Bye for now, guys.
Bye.